Sonic the Hedgehog. This blue little ball of spikes has swept every nation during its 25+ year run, gaining massive popularity in 1991 as being the first cartoon mascot to rival Nintendo's Golden Boy. He's been talked about everywhere in the world, from the public to cancerous YouTube channels, and is probably the only reason their channels get any sort of traction. There's something about Sonic that makes him a very popular topic to many people, as his fanbase is one of, if not the most vocal to ever exist in the world. With every game of his being hyped up so much, even the hype train says they should chill the fuck out. And I think a big reason is maybe because Sonic has the most diverse group of fans, with many people picking one or two parts of Sonic they like. There's the fans of the games, there's the fans of the comics. The one thing that many fans have split views on are his cartoons. Whether it be an apocalyptic Care Bears show or a cancelled anime series, no one can really make their minds up on these shows. And nowhere is that any clearer than the movie that's simply titled Sonic the Hedgehog. Released somewhere in the early to late 90s, this collection of 2 episodes from a cancelled show is being seen as one of those 50-50 things in the Sonic community, with the fanbase saying it's either cringy or has just the right amount of cheese. And personally, I'm on the other side of the fence in this debate. To say I enjoyed this OVA would be a bit of an understatement. I loved every single minute of this movie. But the thing is, why? What's there in this cheesy bit of cheese to enjoy? Well, hopefully I can give a decent explanation as to why I think this strange little movie is a hidden gem in the Sonic community. Our tale takes place in the land of the sky, where
the only thing left to be done is to capture the essential life data from your counterpart. Then you will be complete, my Hyper Metal Sonic. Kill him!
Okay, before I continue, let me explain a big reason why I love this movie. The opening. Sonic at the time of this movie's release was seen as being more kid-friendly, so having this opening that's dark, mysterious, and intimidating with this robot version of Sonic gives off the sense that something isn't right. Like something terrible is about to happen, which immediately sucked me into the film. Alright, movie. I'm paying attention. What you got to offer? We see Sonic and Tails having a good time on the beach next to a crashed airplane which they call their home. I guess if Sonic really is the world's fastest hobo, he dragged Tails with him. Sonic's about to catch some Z's when an owl, we don't know his name throughout the entire film, flies over the horizon calling out his name. After a beautifully animated rescue scene and Sonic delivering easily the best line in the movie, "Shut up, Tails!" The owl greets Sonic and Tails with a message from the president asking for their help. Once the owl is on plane duty, Sonic and Tails fly to South Island in a flash, only to see the president and his daughter being held hostage by Dr. Robotnik, in all of his round and expressive glory. Robotnik is asking for Sonic's help as he was apparently kicked out of Robotropolis by an evil metal version of himself, telling Sonic that there's an unstable generator that will blow up in less than 24 hours, which if not stopped, will burn the land of the sky to the ground. Sonic at first obviously refuses, but thanks to the power of cat tips, he and Tails race down to Robotropolis to see what's up. After once again a wonderfully animated chase scene, Tails and Sonic eventually get to Robotropolis, where they are greeted almost immediately by Metal Robotnik himself, with an honestly pretty looming and cool entrance. Before hope seems lost for our heroes, our boy Knuckles comes straight out of left field and frees Tails and Sonic from Metal Robotnik's literal shit, and the 3 of them make quick work of the robotic titan. With him out of the way, the 3 of them head straight to the generator and shut the whole thing down with a literal millisecond to spare, accompanied again by a great chase scene. But the OVA realized it's too short to end here, as we see Metal Robotnik was Robotnik all along, and he trapped Sonic in a machine, copying his mind into his greatest creation yet, Hyper Metal Sonic. Metal makes very quick work of Sonic, and after doing possibly the strangest thing I've ever seen, he goes to the ice caps in hopes of destroying the world. However, Sonic actually survived his fight, and after running in with the president, Tails and Knuckles having a Skype call, he heads straight to the ice caps, ready for a rematch. One intense fight and infamous line later, Metal Sonic is eventually defeated and becomes engulfed in lava, but in a surprising last-ditch effort, Sonic jumps down and tries to save him. After saying a line that would have been much more tragic if the voice actor was different, Metal Sonic dies, refusing to accept Sonic's help. Knuckles punches Sonic and the movie is over! I won't lie, the story was not the thing that made me love this OVA. Granted, the movie's quite short and no plot point ever really gets held onto for too long, and from what I can tell, there's no major plot holes in this narrative. But then again, how how can you mess up such a simple story? It captured the world of Sonic pretty well, easy to understand with a tone that's more focused on being lighthearted and funny rather than being serious, while also adding a lot of surrealism here and there. It knew exactly what it was and it decided to have fun with itself, something I really appreciated. I guess if I had to tear the plot apart, I will say that the story is way too cliched and some scenes didn't need to be in the film. There is some parts in this movie that if taken out entirely, would really not affect anything in the plot. It really is just filler to try get a quick laugh out of the audience, which can either work or fail miserably. And for this OVA, it was half and half. I also found that the exposition parts of this film were unnecessarily complicated. Remember this part of the video? Robotnik is asking for Sonic's help as he was apparently kicked out of Robotropolis by an evil metal version of himself, telling Sonic that there's an unstable generator that will blow up in less than 24 hours, which if not stopped, will burn the land of the sky to the ground. What took me less than 20 seconds to explain, it takes the movie a solid minute, and the way the information is told, while I still understood everything, could have just been explained in a few sentences, like what I did. Also, Robotropolis is in another dimension? What? There is again the fact that the film uses all the anime tropes in the book. Laid-back hero with best friend as sidekick? Check. Backstabbing villain? Check. Rival? Check. Evil copy? Can't forget that. Villain attempting to marry the princess, etc, etc. Though I can't exactly fault the story for this, as the pacing overall is fine and all the necessary information is given out, even though it could be a little simpler. And despite the movie using every cliche out there, it uses the cliches in an entertaining way, which I think gives the plot a pass. Overall, the story for me was harmless. It tells a simple story and it's lighthearted enough to have fun with it. What about the characters? How exactly can you do a story without them? Are these characters good? The word I think can perfectly describe my thoughts on these characters would be fun. Not exactly the most complex characters ever, but have enough personality to make you root for them, and most of them have a nice presence. Though again, if you're going into a Sonic movie that looks like this and expect to like Yagami, then you really need to kick your expectations down a few pegs. One thing I will say about the cast is that the movie expects you to already know who these guys are before coming into the film, which is a valid point for someone who doesn't know anything about Sonic to make. But because I have no life, I know exactly what a Sonic is, and I think these characters are fantastically adapted from their game counterparts, my favorite being easily Sonic, so I'll save him for last. So we'll start off with the sloppy seconds and talk about Tails. Oh my god, I love him in this! This movie did a very good job at showing Tails' entire character, a shy and determined boy with the mind of a mad scientist, using his brains and inventions in order to give Sonic the upper hand. He's the ultimate player too in this group, and I think that suffices Tails just enough for me to like him. His friendship with Sonic is also very good, with him seeing Sonic as more of an older brother and wanting to try and impress him with his inventions, as we clearly saw in the first scene they're together in which he tries to impress Sonic with a new board he made, while also coming off as a tad bit annoying, which I believe captures his kitty nature very nicely. Knuckles as well I think is great. He may not be as fleshed out as Sonic or Tails, but he has a very strong presence in this film, as he is Sonic's first real rival, and rather than just being seen as hating Sonic, it's quite the contrary. In this movie, you know why Sonic and Knuckles are best friends, and they really see each other as more than just rivals, even showing lots of mutual respect for each other, something I greatly appreciated the OVA showing. And also the fact that this Knuckles is actually quite smart also kinda works in his favor. Why did they make him dumb later on? Our villain Robotnik is the Robotnik that we all grew to love. Diabolical, an easy punching bag, and just dripping with evil. He's not a character with a complicated backstory who you should know why he does all this to Planet Freedom. He's simply a funny obstacle that Sonic has to fight, and he serves his purpose just right, getting in some admittedly very funny lines. Though I can't say much about the side characters. They're exactly what you expect side characters to be, characters that either help the main characters in some way or are just there to give out information. None of these characters have any presence in this film. Even when they had some character, they just came across as just a nuisance to the story, and one even came across as being quite annoying.
No, it's not fair! You always beat me every time! Alright, one more. Dad, I can't win this stupid game! Fine.
What?
I quit! I want to go for a drive.
Absolutely not.
No, I want to! Take me on a drive now!
I swear if I had a sawed-off shotgun, I'd pull the trigger right in your face. Hell, after watching the film, I completely forgot that the owl was ever in this movie, and he takes up a fair amount of screen time. But one character that stole the entire show for me was Sonic, and in my opinion, he's the best Sonic we have. He has all the traits and the personality that I think a good Sonic should have. A carefree, no-shits-giving attitude, cocky, fearless, determined, remorseful, all tied in with a very short fuse. My favorite portrayal of Sonic. Every time he's on screen, he just steals the show with his fantastic energy in his movements, his sassiness, and great cheesy one-liners that make him very memorable. With a fantastic voice to boot, which I'll talk about later. All in all, the characters in this movie are very fun, with great attitude, fun traits to each one, and each get the perfect amount of screen time. Except one. The presentation in this OVA is just... First, the animation is brilliant. I'm gonna be a little more technical when it comes to the animation, as I want to try and make my video a lot more original, so... here I go. So what is it about the animation that I like? The first point is the way the characters are designed and colored. You can see very quickly that the movie took full advantage of the simple style from the games by simplifying the designs of each character drastically. Almost to a point if they simplified it even more, the characters would be colored blobs with eyes. The reason this simple style works is because not only is it faithful to the source material, but the characters are allowed to be extremely expressive without the animators having to worry about the budget. Much like what Toei did when they animated that Sonic CD opening everyone loves so much. You ever notice how in some anime the characters barely or never move at all when it's just them talking? That's because animating movement is very costly, and the action scenes will be nowhere near as impressive because the budget would have been cut by just animating simple conversations. But in the Sonic OVA, the movement only stops when it's really not needed, letting the scenes involving far more energy and impact stand out a lot more. In addition, there is also another factor as to why this movie has such energetic animation. Look at these two pictures of Sonic. One is from the OVA, and one is from Sonic X. What is the first thing you notice besides the designs? That's right, the lack of shading. This little to no shading style of animation works in the OVA's favor for two reasons. One, to cut on budget and make the action scenes more impressive, and two, to make sure the characters don't get lost in the backgrounds, which I'll get to soon enough. The biggest pro the simple designs of the characters have is making the movement not just expressive, but make the extreme posing look a lot more normal. An example of what I'm on about will be Sonic's movement in the rescue scene. Watch closely how Sonic moves during the entirety of this moment. Despite his body doing very weird poses, the simple design makes it look far more natural, allowing the animators to get away with being very expressive without going too much off model. And speaking of which, the posing, expressions, and the movements are just spectacular. Every single gesture, action, and move the Sonic characters make are very effective in perfectly portraying each character's personalities. With Tails always being slouched over and wide-eyed to show his shyness, Knuckles being upright with his head held high with a cocky smile showing great pride, and Sonic always either with his arms crossed or tapping his feet, accompanied with a mostly annoyed expression, displaying a lot of impatience and bottled up energy, showing very clearly that the animators were paying a lot of attention to the small details for each character. But the places where the animation shines the most is without a doubt in the action. This has got to be some of the fastest, flowing, and best choreographed action scenes I've ever watched. Now some people may point out that whenever Sonic runs, his running animation looks very choppy, and to that they're right. Sonic's running animations are sometimes only made up of just 3 frames. However, this choppy animation style works because it allows very fast movement to look more lively. If they did add more frames to his run, in a shocking twist, it would have made him look too smooth, to a point where it would even slow him down. Remember, less frames equals faster movement, and the OVA knew exactly how many frames the animation needed to look fast without it looking too jumpy. This fast animation also made every fight scene very exhilarating to watch, using very good use of their environments and making every punch and kick look like it would really hurt from all the angles, the effects, and even some cheat techniques. Like making the screen go white for a split second to make a punch far more powerful. Okay, I think I made my animation point very clear. It's fantastic. So let's swiftly move on to the backgrounds, which are
gorgeous.
This beautiful painted style of the backgrounds not only look amazing, but let the Sonic characters easily stand out without getting absorbed into their environments. The colors also do a very good job at giving the backgrounds more volume and captures a very good mood in every single one, with mostly cold colors on Planet Freedom to give off a sense of welcoming, but uses warm colors in Robotropolis to give a sense of dread, like a really weird opposite effect which I think is awesome. So the OVA has a spectacular visual presentation. However, what I think tied this little movie in a very handsome bow is without a doubt the way the film handled the sound design. When I first watched this movie, this was the sound design I expected to hear. The sound effects are snappy, cartoony, and very quick, adding to this movie's very fast movements, and each sound effect is very satisfying, especially Sonic's running.
We're on the right track. Just keep going straight.
Got it! I'm getting seriously pumped up about this, Sonic! Just don't enjoy yourself so much you let your guard down!
God, it's so good! The music, absolutely flawless. Every track sounds like something that would be straight out of the games, which you think would be out of place, but instead fits every scene extremely well, making the music stand out all the brighter. My favorite track is easily the theme of South Island. This track is Sonic in musical form, I swear. I know this might come off as a very controversial opinion, but I think the voice acting is actually really good.
What did you say, nigga?
Seriously, if you take a step back and hear these voices come out of these characters, it's really not that bad. Yes, the line delivery could use work, and there are some times where it's just like,
Huh? My hand's on fire! Help!
what? But to me, the way the characters sound fit them very well. Martin Burke was able to capture Sonic's easily annoyed and impatient personality perfectly, and let's be honest, no Sonic voice actor could say lines like this and make it sound any bit natural. Many people really dislike the nasally voice that Lainey Frazier gave Tails, but to me, I think it displays Tails' childish behavior very well, and I don't know, it just sounds cute.
Hey, come out here, Sonic. It's okay if you don't swim. You should give it a try.
Bill Wise was really able to make Knuckles a very likable character, with a supportive tone and cocky voice that gets some very funny lines here and there. And the voices for Robotnik and the side characters were spot on in my opinion. Not giving the best performances out there, but cheesy enough to make me smile. So all in all, I loved this movie to death. It was able to capture everything that makes me love Sonic, and despite having some really silly moments here and there, it's a massive guilty pleasure. So I'm going to give the Sonic OVA a 9 out of 10. It's a fantastic movie that you can find on YouTube, so if you have an hour to spare, give it a watch. It's worth a shot. My name is Manga Artist, and I'll see you in the next one.